what is involved in becoming a node operator, what are the risks, and a little bit about Rocket Pool, and then why Ethereum needs more node operators. So what is Ethereum staking? So in theory, anyone with ETH can stake their ETH and participate in Ethereum's proof of stake system. When Ethereum transactions get formed into a block, they're actually done by proof of stake validators who are kind of creating those blocks. The stake is a good behavior bond. So if you do a good job, then you get paid a reward for doing a good job. If in the unlikely event that you try to be evil or attack Ethereum in any way, then your stake can actually be penalized or otherwise slashed, which effectively means it's burnt and that it doesn't exist anymore. Not the best situation. So how secure is Ethereum? So there's about, this number is probably much lower because it was a couple of weeks ago when I put the slides together, but it's like 24.5 million ETH being staked, and it's increasing on a very rapid rate. So that's about 39 billion US dollars. So to put Ethereum at risk, you would have to put at stake $13 billion. So that's the kind of economic security of Ethereum. So now in reality, ETH staking has a couple of barriers. So the first one is the fact that you need 32 ETH. In actual fact, you need 32 ETH increments as well. So it's 32 and then 64, etc. You also need technical knowledge enough to run an Ethereum node. There's a few little technical barriers. So why would you want to stake your ETH? So first of all, you're securing Ethereum, which is pretty much the most important thing. But you also earn these sweet rewards as well. So how much can you earn from staking your ETH? So you can earn between 4 or 5% per year on your ETH. But how much you actually earn is quite variable. So it depends on your performance as a node operator, and it also, frankly, relies quite a bit on luck. Essentially, the number of blocks that you propose within a year. So there's a wide range of people who are staking their ETH. These include corporations, institutions, and my personal favorite, home stakers. Because Ethereum is permissionless, any of these parties could do it. Whether it doesn't matter how big or small you are, you can permissionlessly participate in securing Ethereum. So under the hood, an Ethereum node is made up of 3 main software components: the execution client, the consensus client, and the validator client. So the execution client is sometimes called the RPC node. The consensus client is sometimes called the beacon chain node. And a validated client is essentially the thing that performs the staking duties, right? So it does like a testing to blocks, it proposes blocks at the right time, it does all of this sort of thing. There's also an optional component called MEV Boost, which I won't go into too much. We can probably talk about that in the questions, but the MEV Boost is where you can get involved in MEV extraction. Okay, so to run an Ethereum node, you can run the execution and consensus clients on any suitable hardware. And it's actually pretty modest hardware. And in actual fact, you can run a node without staking as well. And there's some definite reasons why you'd want to do that. So you can run it on a quad-core CPU with about 32 gig of RAM. You can get away with 16, but it depends on what the client, the flavor of clients you use. But we generally recommend 32 and a 2 terabyte SSD hard drive. So not everyone is going to run their own node, but there's definitely some reasons why you would want to consider doing so. So even if you're not staking, so if you do not run a node, then you have to rely on a third-party centralized service to interact with Ethereum. Okay, So you might not realize it, but your wallet under the hood is pointing at one of the centralized services, and your access to Ethereum is based on that. So by running a node yourself, you actually increase your privacy because you're not leaking any personal information to third parties. You increase your security because you're not actually trusting a third party to give you the correct information. You're improving Ethereum's decentralization because you're not strengthening those centralized kind of failure points. And you always have access because you are not reliant on a third party to either be available or not to censor you. So most Ethereum wallets, you can actually use your own node and take control of your access to Ethereum. So where do staking rewards come from? So there are two types of rewards that you get: consensus rewards and execution rewards. So consensus rewards, the most important feature of them is that they come from newly minted Ethereum. Okay, that's probably the takeaway there. But you generally earn those rewards by your validator doing like testing duties or sync committee duties, the very specific jobs that it has to do for staking. It also does it for proposing a block as well. But the main rewards you get for proposing a block are in the next one, which is execution rewards. So execution rewards you get when you propose a block. So when you propose a block, there's a whole bunch of transactions in there, and an Ethereum user has paid a transaction fee to put their transaction in there. Essentially, validators get the tips of all of that. So in EIP 1559, you have a base fee, which gets burnt, and then there's a tip on the end, and validators get that tip. What they also get is MEV as well. So MEV is essentially you've reordered the transactions to capture some sort of MEV, and usually somebody pays you for that as well. Okay, so with great power comes great responsibility. So first of all, there's security. So you have to safeguard the security of your node to ensure your funds are safe, and obviously contributing to Ethereum security. You have to be up online or have uptime. So in actual fact, uptime is a funny one because there are actually very minor penalties or mild penalties for being offline. Obviously, you want to maximize your return, so you don't want to be offline for too long. But being offline isn't a slashing thing. It's something that's very, very mild. Maintenance. So you've got to perform regular maintenance and monitoring of your node, making sure that it's up and running and still working. And we have like a thing called a smart node stack, which I'll go into a little bit later, that actually makes this super easy. So to be honest, running a node is actually a lot easier than you imagine. There are many Rocket Pool node operators who have started with very little technical knowledge and are now running staking validators and nodes on mainnet. We've got like a whole bunch of documentation that even if you don't go with Rocket Pool, the documentation is still really useful for getting an idea about staking. Okay, cool. What are the risks? So there's slashing and then there's leaking. So slashing is what I said before. It is basically you've done something that the protocol doesn't like. It thinks you're trying to attack the protocol, and so it will slash you. Now, there's pretty much only one reason why you'd get slashed, and that is you try to run your validator keys in two places at the same time. Now, a lot of the clients have built-in protections for this now. A thing called doppelganger protection. So if your client supports doppelganger protection, turn it on because it will save you. But at the same time, not running your keys in two places is definitely the best way. And that is making sure that if you move, pretty much anytime you move from one machine to another, you have to shut the other machine down, make sure it's not coming back, and then you raise the other one before you do it. So yeah, just some careful thing there. Okay, now leaking. So as I said, downtime is not necessarily a huge problem, but downtime when lots of other people are down is not good, right? So this is a tail risk with being offline. So if you're offline with a whole bunch of people that are offline, then you're penalized much more harshly. Now, this is actually a design in Ethereum to prevent centralization. So the more decentralized you are, these penalties are actually very, very mild. But if you're a centralized operator and you go down and you take 1% of the network with you, then you are going to be punished very severely by the protocol itself. This is kind of this is why centralized staking providers are not necessarily the safest places to put your money, but that's where we're at. Okay. Oh, and also the other reason why this might happen is if you're you're using a majority client, and they have a bug, then that can also affect you as well. So the other thing to do is to try and choose a minority client where you can. Okay, so what is Rocket Pool? So Rocket Pool is a decentralized liquid staking protocol. On one side, you have RETH liquid stakers that don't require a node. They can stake with any amount. Essentially, what they're doing is swapping ETH for RETH, which is the liquid staking token, and then they're essentially staking. Rocket Pool then matches that ETH from liquid stakers to node operators. So currently, our node operators, anyone can be a node operator with Rocket Pool. So unlike a lot of providers where you have to go through a lot of permission gates to get to be a node operator, with us, anyone can be a node operator. The reason is because you bring some collateral with you. You bring 8 ETH and 2.4 ETH of RPL to become a node operator. And as long as you've got that, then you can become a node operator. That's used to basically, if you mess up, it's used to kind of like pay back our ETH holders, so it doesn't actually affect them. So with node staking, obviously that's a lowering of the barrier to entry. So previously you needed 32 ETH, now you only need 8 plus the 2.4 of RPL. So we're kind of like lowering that barrier of entry. So node operators actually stake their own ETH, but they also stake ETH on behalf of liquid stakers. So we just said it's 8 ETH there, and so there's another 24. Yeah. Yes. ETH from liquid stakers, and so that 24 from liquid stakers, it's all done kind of like non-custodially and trustedly through our smart contracts. So node operators actually never take custody of those funds. They're staked through the smart contracts. One of the benefits of being a node operator is the fact that you actually earn more than you would do if you were solo staking. So if you were solo staking with 32 ETH, with Rocket Pool, you actually stake, obviously you're actually earning the rewards on that 8 ETH that you're staking, but you also earn a commission on the rewards you're generating on behalf of liquid stakers. So that's on the 24 ETH, and you get basically 14% of the rewards that you generate for liquid stakers. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit more about Rocket Pool. So we've been on mainnet since November 2021. It's gone pretty well since then. So we have over 3,200 individual node operators in 133 different geographic locations. We're staking around 800,000 ETH. We represent about 3% of all the ETH that's being staked on Ethereum today. Okay, so some of our features. So we've got the smart node. The smart node's awesome. It's the easiest way to run an Ethereum node today. I kid you not, it's like 3 commands to run an Ethereum node. It spins it up for you automatically. It also sets up things like monitoring, so Grafana dashboards and that sort of thing. It has like a CLI that makes things like pruning. So in Geth, for example, you prune and that sort of thing, and it makes pruning super simple. So we have some administrative stuff. it also interacts with the Rocket Pool smart contract so that you can do things like depositing into Rocket Pool and getting your statuses of things and all that sort of stuff. We also, as I said, lower the barrier of entry from 32 to 8. The other awesome thing is that the community support. So we've got this massive community of 3,200 node operators, and they've actually coached hundreds and hundreds of node operators from zero to running on mainnet. So they're very, very good. They kind of tirelessly give their time and energy to making sure that people can get on board with Rocket Pool and feel the joy of running an Ethereum node. It's actually, so being part of the Rocket Pool community is actually one of the most rewarding features, I'd say. It's a good thing to have. So the next one is a smoothing pool. So I kind of alluded to that the rewards you get are very variable. And so they can be extremely variable because so the number of times you propose a block is probably the most important thing about how profitable you are. And that's random, right? So you could be lucky. So on average, you might get about 5 blocks per year. But because it's a bell curve, you could be on the outside of the bell curve and only get like 1 or 2. Or you could be on this this side and get like 10. And so it's very, very variable. And then the amount you get for that block is also very variable, particularly when you take MEV into account. There's on average, you get maybe 0.01 ETH for a block, or 0.02 ETH for a block. But it's gone all the way up to like 200 ETH. So it's extremely variable, although that you'd be very lucky if you got 200 ETH block. And so what the smoothing pool does is everyone kind of like points their execution rewards at the smoothing pool. And then what it actually does is, instead of having this massive variability, so you could be quite unlucky or you could be lucky, instead of having this massive variability, what we do is everything goes into one pool. And then every 28 days, we just claim off that pool. And so what that does is it gives you this consistent return every single month. So it's basically like you're getting a block every month. And then there's Rocket Arb. Now Rocket Arb is awesome. So actually the last two are community developed things. So this is again an awesome thing about Rocket Pool is it has this massive ecosystem around it. And one of those things is Rocket Arb. So Rocket Arb was developed by someone in the community. What we were seeing was that there was these arbitrage bots that were taking arbitrage, or whenever a node operator deposited, it creates like a little gap in our deposit pool. And this arbitrage bot would, when rETH is trading at premium, it would capture this arb. And the community kind of decided, well, we don't want the arbors getting that. Well, let's have our node operators capture that. So they wrote like an arbing contract which does that arbitration. So recently there's been a good kind of premium, or it's been rising a little bit, and so people have been capturing that arbitrage, and so you literally get paid for depositing into Rocket Pool. You can probably capture 3, 6, 12 months worth of interest by using this arb. And then the last one is the rescue node. So as I said, downtime's not a huge thing, but you still want to maximize your return. So what the rescue node is like a community run thing that if your node dies, which every now and again it might do, sometimes they have a thing about corrupting database every now and again. And if that happens, then what you do is you just point to your validator client, you point it at the rescue node, and you can still keep validating while your node is syncing. The great thing about the smart node is it does that pretty much automatically. So you need to point it at the rescue node first of all, but once your node is synced, it knows and will point it back to your node so that it's all kind of done. We have this kind of like this fallback system within Rocket Pool to be able to direct you at different places. All right, so for Ethereum to be truly a global and open financial and non-financial platform, it's got to be highly secure, highly resilient, credibly neutral, and censorship resistant. So this is why Ethereum prioritizes decentralization, because it gives us those characteristics. Now, estimates vary because of the decentralized nature of Ethereum. There are around 10 to 15,000 nodes that actually are running on Ethereum or running Ethereum today. Many of those won't be staking, right? But Rocket Pool is running around 3,000 nodes. So the highest estimate, we account for about 20% of all the nodes, but we only account for 3% of the ETH stake. So, that's why this shows, why we need to continually strive for decentralization and by lowering the barrier of entry for new node operators. And that's me. Anyway, if you want to find out more, yeah, cool.
So we don't have that much time because Darren has to leave soon, but we'll have a quick kind of fireside chat, quote unquote. If anyone has any questions, again, I think there's about 5 t-shirts, so we'll prioritize t-shirts for those who ask questions first. Just make sure you're not asking just for the sake of asking. But before we get that, and if anyone wants to ask, you can just raise your hand if you want to front run everyone else for getting t-shirts. But before we get that, I always like to start kind of the fireside chat just by asking our guests your backstory. For you personally, and as well as Rocket Pool, how did you start getting into crypto or Ethereum, and how did the whole journey with Rocket Pool start?
So actually, I got into Ethereum and Bitcoin the same way everyone does, by kind of seeing the price go up. And so I got really interested in that. But then Ethereum kind of captured my eye because of smart contracts and smart contract development. So I started to, and my background is I'm a software developer, but I've done kind of lots of management stuff, like product management and strategy and stuff. So as a software developer, I saw the Ethereum, and I saw how it can be used for programmable money, and also organizations and that sort of thing. It was really kind of quite interesting. So I did a lot of Solidity development and kind of got up to speed on how that worked. I decided I really wanted to kind of get into it quite, much more. This was end of 2017. And so I reached out to somebody who in my hometown who was basically it was a smart contract developer, but he also audited ICO contracts. So the ICO boom was happening. He was absolutely flooded. He had so many contracts to audit that I jumped in and started helping him audit contracts. So we went through that and did a few token audit contracts. And then I was starting to go to the Ethereum meetup in Brisbane, where we're from. And I met Dave, who's the founder of Ethereum, at that meetup. So similar to you guys, sitting here today, we were just going along and chatting and listening to speakers and that sort of stuff. But Dave he had written a prototype of Rocket Pool, and was thinking about going. At that point, he was thinking about an ICO, and then eventually he didn't. The ICO end of 2017. And then, so we got on really well. And then eventually he wanted to scale up the team. So he'd done a lot of the smart contract work, but he needed to build out all the other components and kind of tweak things. So he brought on myself and a guy called Jake to kind of build out those other components and start the team. So it was about 2018, beginning of 2018. And then it went from there, to be honest. I must admit, I left the government job to go into the startup world, and it was so exciting. Everything was kicking off, and Rocket Pool was just a fantastic opportunity. I couldn't really kind of pass up on it.
It's a completely different extreme from a government job to Ethereum staking. And as an Ethereum meetup organizer, it's that's the dream, where if you get 2 people here maybe who starts out some billion-dollar project or something that changes the world. That's hopefully some of you guys in the future. But if we kind of rewind back to that time in 2017, 2018, staking was this long kind of promised thing in Ethereum, and it kind of never happened. It was this meme that, it's gonna happen sometime in the future. So how was that like being very early into the whole staking game, and potentially at that time seeing no future for it happening? Like, how did you survive that time until, I guess, 2020?
So I think when I started at Rocket Pool, Ethereum was going to be using a smart contract for how proof of stake was going to work. It was this Casper FFG contract, and so we built the system around that contract. We were testing it out. We were pretty much one of the only people that were interacting with this contract, and we were doing beta releases to our community. This is how it's working, all that sort of thing. I think we were about 2 or 3 months away from launch when we at the time, and then suddenly I think I got a ping from Danny Ryan saying that we're going to announce something tomorrow and it might screw you guys a little bit. So I apologize about that. And so then they announced the beacon chain and the fact that they're completely changing the architecture, and it did quite screw us quite a bit. But it was actually, I think once we kind of like were like over the initial shock, the design was so much better, and that we kind of went, actually, we understand why they're taking in that direction. So they had a number of innovations, like with the BLS signatures and all this sort of thing. So it made it so much better. But then it did mean that it was going to be a much longer kind of thing. So yeah, but it was good. We dived into it. We learned more and more about it. And I think one of the best things is you get to interact with the client teams a lot, and researchers and all this sort of thing. And although it doesn't look like it from the outside, there is stuff going on all the time. So even though the outside people are putting up memes of Vitalik looking old and Ethereum 2 finally released, from the inside, you're constantly seeing these little bits of progress, so it does make it a lot easier from that sense.
Thanks. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, wow. Okay, I think it's Dev and then Roman and Asfar. So we'll go with Dev first.
Okay. So okay. So in the Rocket Pool, if some node operator is running, like you said, for that 10.25 Ethereum is the requirement, 8 plus 2.5. Suppose he get good number of delegates in his node, and suddenly he goes offline. Then in that case, the people who delegated to that particular node operator, will they able to claim back their ETH without waiting him to come again online?
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. So the first thing is that it's not the way that it currently works is it's not like a delegation. What it actually is it's a pool. So all kind of like rewards and losses are socialized amongst all ETH holders. Okay. Now, in that particular instance, so first of all, the likelihood of that instance is very, very low, because they have their own ETH at stake, right? So they are economically aligned to perform, because if they're not, then they're going to be losing money, and they lose money. Like if they are under the amount, then they essentially, that goes to pay off the ETH holders don't get affected by that stuff. So they're the main things. Rewards and when other people exit, that creates the withdrawal buffer to be able to withdraw. So there's a couple of there's two places where they can withdraw from. There's the RETH contract, which holds a certain amount back specifically for withdrawals, and then above that threshold, so at the moment it's like 1% because we're growing. Anything above that gets recycled into our deposit pool. In other words, it gets restaked by other node operators. So, but when you withdraw, you can pull from the RETH contract and the deposit pool, which is the ETH that's coming in to be staked, but hasn't quite been staked yet. So we have that as the primary mechanism for withdrawal. And that gets filled up, as I said, from rewards from all node operators coming back into that pool, and also anyone who exits, that goes into that pool as well. So it's not on a specific node operator basis, also it's on an entire network basis. The other thing is that the second option for withdrawal is on the secondary market, and this on the secondary market, the protocol as a DAO kind of incentivized liquidity of RETH pretty much everywhere, so that we always have a decent amount of liquidity in the market, so that they can actually withdraw from there as well.
But so going back to that, so the losses are socialized. But for the person who's running the node operator, let's say they screw up intentionally or not, so they lose 10 ETH, but then the protocol as a whole would lose another, let's say 22 ETH, right?
So you can lose.
Let's say if they get slashed and they lose like half of that.
Yes, they can. Yeah. So if they get, well, okay. So in any normal slashing, you actually only lose about 1.5 ETH. Okay. So any normal slashing is covered completely by that 8 ETH, because it just comes out of that 8 ETH. So the node operator loses those funds, but then they were in control of the node when it did happen. So it's up to them to take their responsibility. But RETH holders never get hit by that. The only time when so the 8 ETH and the 2.4 ETH are there to cover the tail risks, and the tail risks are like a correlated slashing. So if a whole bunch of people, and pretty much the only real reason for this would be a client bug, if a whole bunch of people went off the line or got slashed at the same time, then that's when that 8 ETH really comes into its own, because it can eat away at that. We have the reason why it's 8 ETH and 2.4 ETH is to make sure that we've got good coverage of those tail risks, so that we give our ETH holders the best case for that. But they are tail risks. In other words, they're unlikely to happen. It's just we have that there to make sure that that's the case.
So in normal slashing, then the protocol actually makes a little bit of money. The 10 minus 1.5.
Yes. Yes. It did. Well, if you think about it from an RETH perspective, it's basically it just fills in the gap. It doesn't necessarily make the money.
All right, thanks. Roman, you wanna ask your question?
It's quite cool. Yeah. My question probably is like an exam from the university, but anyway, like in your mind, just like maybe you have some research on like internal side, but may you tell us about like if all rocket pool validators is slashing like at the same time, how it will affect to like Ethereum in general, to rocket pool? Like do you have like any like maybe saving pool as Aave, for example, so they collect like 30% from deposits for this dangerous situation? Like, do you have any in your mind?
Okay, so the first thing is likelihood, and the next thing is impact. All right. So the likelihood of rocket pool node operators all getting slashed at the same time is extremely unlikely, and the reason for that is because we're decentralized. All right. Any other protocol, centralized protocols, it's not the case necessarily. But because we're decentralized, I want to say by decentralized, so we've got 3,200 node operators. It's 3,200 individual node operators that have completely different machines, completely different clients, completely different network situations, And so the chance of, again, probably client bug is pretty much the only thing that but then even a client bug would only affect one proportion of our node operators, not the whole lot, mainly because our community do a lot of work on making our client diversity stats as transparent as possible, so that people know, okay, so don't use Geth, use something like Nethermind, or they can kind of like make that decision. We also make switching clients very easy, so you can actually, with the smart node, you can actually switch clients very easy as well. So the likelihood of that is very low, comparably. The other thing is impact, and now that comes to the bond that they put up. Yeah, because they put up a bond. If they got correlated slashing, then most of that would be covered by the 8 ETH and the 2.4 ETH of RPL. There's very, very minimal cases where that would be an extreme tail risk if that was the case.
Some reserves or some emergency plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the 8 ETH and the 2.4 ETH cover, is pretty much the most extreme cases. It's not, and also the way that Ethereum staking works is actually quite, the footprint is very, very minimal. So we've got these smart contracts that sit there in there, but the footprint is extremely minimal in terms of any sort of exploit and that sort of thing.
But this likelihood which you said that you have very diverse clients.
Yeah.
Is it possible there could be a bug in the rocket pool protocol itself which can create this situation?
Yeah, that's what I said about that's what I was saying about the footprint. So we specifically design Rocket Pool to minimize the kind of like smart contract footprint, and so we have a whole system where a node operator has to actually they have to roll forward. So whenever we release a change to the actual mini pool contract, right, which is basically where their funds come back to, right, they choose to upgrade. So we can't force them to upgrade. So we can't put like an exploitable version in there without them kind of like upgrading. We also have like currently we have also a rollback mechanism as well, so they can actually roll back to the other thing as well. But so basically that they have to actually make that choice of going forward. So that also helps as well. But the footprint for exploits is very, very minimal on that, basically that one contract.
And next we have Asfa.
Thank you. Yep. So Rocket Pool is a decentralized staking protocol, right? So my question is, early on, how did you guys identify the components that needed to be decentralized, and what were the unseen or underappreciated efforts that need to be done to make this process a reality?
Yeah, so the main thing that's decentralized about, there are two things really that's decentralized about Rocket Pool. The first thing is the validator set. So when we say a decentralized liquid staking protocol, we tend to just mean the validator set. So in other words, the only way you get a decentralized validator set is permissionlessness. So we can't gatekeep the node operators, because if we gatekeep the node operators means that it's not permissionless, and so you don't get decentralization. You need to be able to lower the barrier of entry as much as possible, so that as many people can participate safely. And we've kind of like spoken about the protocol safety side of things, but we need to kind of balance those two things together. We need to balance getting as many people into the protocol as possible, but in a safe way, so that we cover as many of those kind of cases, those edge cases as possible. That's probably the hardest thing. The hardest thing is dealing with permissionlessness, because you can't trust the node operators. Anyone can be a node operator. They they could do something, they could be awesome node operators, and most of them are, but then they could be terrible node operators or malicious node operators. So we have to build it around the fact that we don't trust them. The way that we tend to do that is through this bonding mechanism, because in any case that they kind of fail to do what they're expected to do, we can use that to make our ETH holders whole. So that's generally that's generally the tricky part. Smart contracts are tricky to keep secure. That's definitely something that we work very, very hard on, and we get essentially the biggest kind of auditors in the business to actually audit our code. I think we've been audited something like 7 or 8 times over the last 2 years. Every time we do a release, it's audited basically by a minimum of 2, but also often 3 auditors. And so, yeah, that's what you kind of like do. We also have a bug bounty program as well, which has had bug bounty submissions and all this sort of thing come through. That helps to keep things secure as well. So permissionlessness and the design around that, and probably security, are the 2 kind of like really hard things about running a protocol.
Right, so I think we have 4 minutes left to 3. I'm not sure how rushed you are. Okay. So if there are no hands raised up, okay, Nick's raised up. But I'm gonna ask one question first, because I think it's really cool that Rocket Pool is an actually running DAO. Like, we have a bunch of DAOs out there. So I just want to make sure that we cover that a little bit. So just like from your experience of this DAO so far, like how did you structure it to perhaps make it more functioning? And what's the experience been like, a team based in Brisbane managing a rabbit community around the world?
Yeah, so as I said, we've got, so the DAO, actually Rocket Pool's governance is broken up into 2 DAOs. We have one called the Protocol DAO, which is made up of all of our node operators. So those 3,200 node operators, they stake RPL, and RPL itself isn't a governance token. So if you bought RPL off the market today, it's not actually a governance token. But if you use it within the protocol, so if you're staking it within protocol and it's supporting validators, then it's governance weight. Okay. Now, there's several reasons why we chose that approach. The first one is the fact that, so Vitalik's written about this, the kind of issues with coin voting. One of the big issues with coin voting is non-aligned actors coming in and buying up a load of your governance token, and then having sway in your governance. So either buying it up, or maybe they're a VC and they bought up a load, but they don't intend to add any more value apart from buying up a load of your token. So the idea there is that to have vote weight within Rocket Pool, you have to be running validators and staking your RPL. So that means that you're contributing to the value of Rocket Pool. So that's the Protocol DAO. Protocol DAO also has like snapshot signaling. Currently, they don't have any on-chain power at the moment. They have snapshot signaling, and then other members, which I'll talk to in a minute, either the team or a thing called the Oracle DAO, then execute based on that kind of signaling. But soon in our next release called Houston, they will actually get on-chain power. So they'll be able to change parameters. They'll be able to do treasury spends and that sort of thing. So the Protocol DAO will actually have that. The Oracle DAO is another thing. So an Oracle DAO, so they actually play a very key role within the operation of the protocol. So they oracle information from the beacon chain or the consensus chain to the execution chain, which currently, because Ethereum is 2 chains under the hood, and they don't really talk to each other. That's about to change with Dankun, but at the moment that's the case. So the Oracle DAO actually push information from the consensus layer into the execution layer so that we can actually use it. For doing that job, they kind of they get paid for that job, but they also play a part in the upgrade process. So we have a massive governance process where to be able to change anything in Rocket Pool, we go through the PDAO governance to make sure that we have these things called Rocket Pool improvement proposals, very similar to an EIP. where those proposals get drafted and they get talked about. They get public discourse about them, and then once they're ready, they go up for snapshot voting. They're snapshot voted by the PDAO. Once that's done, then it goes to the Oracle DAO. They raise a proposal, and then it takes 7 days for that proposal to actually be able to be voted on, so that everyone can see what the proposal is, and to make sure that it's it's secure and what everyone expected. And then after that, they can then vote it in, and we can execute it. So it's quite a long-winded process, but very important for a large protocol to have a governance process like that. So at the moment, that process is really good. We're kind of working through it at the moment for our next release. The Oracle DAO itself is probably going to be reduced in size over time, or kind of its duties. So at the moment, it does quite a lot, but each one of those duties is post Dankun can start to be kind of taken away, and eventually the ODAO will kind of probably cease to exist, and it will just be the PDAO, but that we've still got to kind of iron out how that works.
And just, do you have, if any, thoughts on differences between being in Rocket Pool DAO versus other DAOs that might be out there, if you've had experience there?
Yeah, one of the big things is, so we get something like 25% quorum on pretty much every vote that we do. That is very unusual, right? Quorum is 5% in other protocols. So if 95% of your voting weight is not participating in governance, that's not a great thing. So that's one thing. I mean, it may change over time. So we're trying to make sure that we can make sure we get enough of that happening. So that's one key thing. The other thing is just the demographic. We're lucky in the sense that all of our voting members are node operators. The people who actually use our system and benefit from it are the people who are voting on what we should be doing. And that's participatory governance, whereas a lot of other protocols, that's not necessarily the case. Usually they have VC allocations and all of that sort of thing, and so that tends to be a very big difference between the two.
So maybe if we can kind of summarize it, would be like having voters who are skin in the game and have some sort of meritocracy, and also bootstrapping it with maybe kind of a more permission group of credible people to help. Okay, cool. So not forgetting Nick's question. So Nick can come forward.
Yep, so I just have a very brief question about, and actually you covered a bit on the utility of RE. So actually my question is more on what is the purpose of RE, as well as maybe you can highlight the economics of RE. Maybe is it an inflationary token? Does it grow every single year and so on?
And I guess RPL as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Cool. Yeah, because we've got two tokens, and that's always confusing. RETH is a liquid staking token that just accrues value over time based on the proof of stake rewards that's being generated. RPL. So RPL, as said, is two things, right? It's a form of collateral that's used within the protocol to kind of cover off some of these tail risks. And it's also a kind of a governance token as well, because if you're using it within the protocol, then it's governance weight. RPL itself, it has an inflation rate of a fixed inflation rate of 5%. So what happens is every 28 days that inflation is kind of created, and when it does, 70% of that created inflation goes to node operators for staking their RPL within the protocol. So if you're staking RPL within the protocol, then you're getting this kind of return on your RPL. So that's the 70%. Now the next bit is tricky because the numbers are changing quite a bit, but it's now 8% goes to the Oracle DAO for performing their Oracle DAO duties, and 22% goes to our protocol DAO. So the protocol DAO, which I mentioned before, they can do treasury spends and spend that money. Currently, how that works is they break it down into three things. The first thing is incentives management. So the DAO has to incentivize liquidity of RETH on L1 so that we have deep liquidity, particularly for like lending protocols, because when they liquidate, they have to liquidate very fast and they need low slippage. So they do it on L1, but they also do it on L2 so that people can actually access RETH really easily and cheaply and fast and all that sort of thing. And that we kind of like support L2 ecosystems for developing further, that they develop lending platforms and all that sort of thing. So that's that. The other thing that they spend their money on is the grants and bounties program. So there's a whole heap of grants and bounties that have come out, and you can basically put forward a proposal. They assess the proposal, and then based on that, they'll basically give you some money to do that. The aim of the grants and bounties program is to support an ecosystem around Rocket Pool and to add value to Rocket Pool, and also get the community involved in developing Rocket Pool. So the core team are a very small team, and that's by design, so that we can survive bear markets, but second of all, it's so that the community can take over some of that stuff, and that we don't get involved in absolutely everything, because we feel that that's part of being in a DAO. Being in a DAO is contributing to the DAO. So that in that way we make sure that we don't. It's just not it's not the Rocket Pool team show. It's actually the Rocket Pool DAO show. That's covered that. Yeah.
Cool. I think we'll go like one or two questions probably before Darren leaves. Okay, one question. If no one is raising their hand, I have a question I really like. Okay, Asha's got a question.
Hello, quick question on minority client. What do you think is the biggest barrier of entry for the user to use a minority client?
Probably education. It's knowing about the client. It's also a bit of a trust thing. So switching to a different client they haven't used before. You definitely feel the nerves of somebody switching. So I think that's why new clients take a bit of time to get going, because it has to be kind of like trusted. But then what's great about the Rocket Pool community is we talk about this stuff all the time, and in support and in the Discord. And so what actually ends up happening is you get people who are a bit more easygoing with risk, and so they will switch over to the client and give it a try. I mean, the worst case scenario is it's offline or whatever. So they give it a try, and then they give everyone else the insight into how that's performing for them. What's the RAM like? What's the CPU like? How is it actually going? Is it effective in the effectivity scores and all that sort of stuff? They'll just kind of like, it's more then it starts word of mouth. And you start getting that. But the Rocket Pool community talk about that stuff all the time. So they have a very good handle on the clients they like to use. And to be honest, it's pretty much all of them. Like there's not really a bad client. So you can pretty much use all of them. They have different. You know this anyway, but they have different profiles in terms of their kind of like hardware profiling. And so some of them need more RAM. Some of them a bit more intensive on the CPU, but each one of them is different. So basically, I would say education and just like good word of mouth are two important things.
All right, and with that, thanks Darren for spending your time here. Please give him a round of applause. So for those of you who missed it, today we reversed the agenda a little bit. So Darren's kindly shared his time. He needs to leave a bit earlier because he needs to fly off to Singapore. Maverick will still be here, so can still chat about Rocket Pool stuff with Maverick later. But On that note, I'll pass it to Shankai to do the monthly announcements.
Is this sharing? Oh. Oh. Oh yeah, I can't see it here. Where is it? Oh, this one. Let's zoom in now. It's not here. It didn't show it here. Yep. So I just press this button. Right. Okay. Hi everyone. So I'm Shankai. So just give some brief announcements. So first, this slide, just forget about it. So just move on to the first announcement today. So some throwback on ETH Singapore. I think last week, and 10 to 12 September, I think some members are in Singapore. I think we have also around like 15 hackers there as well. So yeah, from one of the organizers of EKL, right? So it's also a chance for me to go and see what conference are like, to give a gist about it, because next month we also have our own Ethereum Kuala Lumpur conference. So yeah, personally that helped me a little bit. And also, right, ETH Singapore, we also have hackathon winners. I think according to Udish, there are 2 teams who won awards from Baltis, I think, right? From Zikila, Taiko, Aztec, worth of 12.1 USDC. So let's give a round of applause to them. And okay, this one is a bit of surprise. Okay, so we also have 2 persons, Chen and also Chichuan. He's right there. Also joined the ZK House at Elio. I think it's around token 2049, and they won 1,000 USD if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay. And I'll pass to them as well. Okay. Speaking of Elio, okay. So next Wednesday, we actually gonna have the first Elio KLZK meetup on the 20th of September, Wednesday. The time is 7:30 to 9:30 at World QTTDI. So if you want more information on this, you can talk to ZK. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Non-pun intended. ZK talking about Elio KLZK meetup. Okay, so more announcements. So this one is a bit close to home. So I think next week onwards, we're gonna have like an event run by APU. It's a Sparkathon. So you can see the agenda. It's gonna be a week of fully of workshops, mentorships, and also a lot of talks, I think. And on the last day, this goes like from 22 September to 1 October. You can have your own demo day. You can learn from workshops, and also I think this is also a good opportunity, right, to learn and build, and also you could use this as a stepping stone for the upcoming ETHKL hackathon as well. Yeah. So if any details, you can talk to Udish over here. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so ETHKL is finally going to be active on YouTube right now. Okay, so I think just recently we recorded this video. It's actually a 101 interview with Harif K. So it's about an introduction of ETHKL, 8 minutes, right? So let's say if you're new to the ETHKL community and you want to know the background, how it started, what is our vision, etc., you can go to the Ethereum Malaysia YouTube channel and then see the video. It's about 7 minutes long, right? So other than YouTube channels, we are right now also have our
ETHKL website. I think you can search it. It's ethkl.org. It's not completed yet, but I think in the future we could use this website to post updates, maybe embed some YouTube videos there, and also maybe a shout out to the local community, upcoming events. It's still on the process, but it's there. Okay. So right now, just a little bit updates on Ethereum Kuala Lumpur. So at the moment, right, we have around 16 speakers, right? But I think we are aiming to have 22 speakers. Not sure if I can share it here. One second. What's that? One second, give me a second. Okay, so this is our website. So right now you can either join as a participant or join as a hacker. So for the hackathon, it actually started a little bit earlier. It's on the 30th October until 15th October. 13th October is when you come and you get briefings from sponsors and also a little bit of workshop from our sponsors and also just a briefing on how the hackathon is going to be. It's going to be like a 40 hours hack, if I'm not mistaken, from 13th October until 15th October. For conference, it starts on the 14th October until 15th October. Right, so if you can see here, we already have a list of speakers, a lot of speakers. This is not finalized yet. So and right now there's like 16 of them. So we plan to do like 22 speakers, right? And also we are going to do a lot of panels, a lot of tracks, mainly like on DeFi, infrastructure, zero knowledge. So you can imagine that it's going to be a jam-packed session with multiple talks from multiple people. And at the moment, we also have a lot of speakers pending, and this will be finalized very soon. But in my opinion, I'm quite proud of this lineup. And I think it's going to be a very, very great conference with a lot of these jam-packed sessions from all these speakers. Okay. Okay, so to reward you guys coming here in the afternoon at 3 p.m., right? So right now we're actually giving out free tickets. Not sure if the promo code will affect. One second. So you can so you can scan this promo code and get this conference ticket for free. So right now, I think there's only like 30 tickets. So you can try your best to front run others to get these tickets. I'm gonna give another 10 seconds on this. Okay, so moving on. Okay, for Ethereum Kuala Lumpur, right? So this is a very big project, and we are led by a very, very lean team of 10 people. So for those of you who want to contribute to this event, want to be a volunteer, roles such as stand at the registration booth during the day, or like making sure that helping out the speakers, the guests, ushering them to the right place, making a crowd control, etc. on the day itself. Or you can also volunteer to do tasks like help us follow up with speakers and also help a lot of logistics staff, marketing staff, etc. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me or TY at that. Right. So I think that for this, right, we're also very proud that this is initiative-led, a community-led initiative to do this event, right? We want Malaysia to be heard from the world. So if you guys are aligned on this, yeah, do come join us and be part of the volunteer. Okay, so that's all from my part. Okay, for that, I think there is a Google form for that. Or you guys, if you're interested, just reach out to me. Then I'll DM you the Google form and I'll add you in a contributors group. Right. So that's all. I'm going to pass it to Nick for the monthly roundups. Thank you.
Jim, and welcome to our September meetup for ETL. How many of you here were in Singapore last week? How many of you guys, did you guys hack? How many of you guys see some of the hackers here? So you guys good are here? Any Singaporeans in the house? Or you guys don't want to admit? Okay, but that's because we have the best logo for the new ETL logo, just kidding. But this is actually a spin-off that we created locally in ETL. It's called Ethereum Nasi Lemak. And it's actually inspired by the Pad Thai logo that Thailand has done. So I think we have, the best logo in terms of the two countries. So this one, I think we're gonna make into stickers, so you can actually, it might be given out during the conference itself in October. So yeah, look out for it. In terms of food, we have a very interesting case with our local favorite, and that is, oops, sorry, let me go back. Excuse me on that. Where is the mouse? Sorry, guys. I'll move. Oh, there you go. And it's in fact it's mirrored down here. So I think we all pretty much use Grab for our daily food buying. So yeah, they recently released okay, that should be better. Okay, so Grab has actually released a Web3 wallet for essentially holding crypto. Currently, they only support the Polygon blockchain, but I can imagine that it's a regular Ethereum address. You can pretty much store any crypto you want. So this is pretty big adoption, guys. Anybody who has the Grab app can actually use Web3 features. And currently, the Web3 features that have been released includes holding NFTs, and those NFTs are represented as vouchers. So currently, we are not very clear on what the vouchers can do, but I can imagine that in the future, you can get your food vouchers, you can get your promo code vouchers on the blockchain. And it's not clear yet whether you can possibly run like, MEV bots and fund run your friends like sandwich order or something like that. Could be something possible in the future. Unfortunately for Malaysians, you guys are out of luck. It's not available in Malaysia yet. Terms and conditions are that it's only in Singapore right now. So on the same topic, MetaMask has actually released a new feature called MetaMask Sell, not Dump. So it allows you to convert any crypto you have. For example, you have Ether, you have any ERC20 tokens. You can now directly sell them into your bank account like immediately. So let's say you have Ether, you just press sell, you key in your bank account and you immediately get your fiat. So this is a precursor to their feature that they released, which actually was buy, where you can use any credit card or you can use, I think credit cards only. You can use credit cards and immediately buy Ether with cash. Terms and conditions apply. Malaysia is not included in the list of allowed countries, but I've actually figured out a workaround through this. And well, you can actually just switch on a VPN and overcome the shortcomings of this. Right. So I think we saw a particularly unusual tweet earlier this week actually, and that is Vitalik Twitter suddenly tweeted out an NFT campaign. I was very suspicious of it. I didn't click on it, but actually several core community members, such as there are a few core community members where they clicked on it, got their ETH drained. I think about 800 ETH was lost. But essentially, this attack from Twitter was caused by a SIM swap. Anybody clear or everyone clear about what SIM swaps are? Anybody does not understand what is a SIM swap? Okay, cool. Let me explain. So SIM cards, for example, Maxis, Hotlink, DG, are all controlled by ISPs. So they all have ultimate control of your SIM cards. SIM cards are not decentralized, okay? So if anyone wants to create a protocol, it's a good idea. But essentially, anyone working at Maxis has the complete authority to transfer your SIM card in the case that you lose it. Well, it makes sense. If my mom lost my SIM card, I just go to Maxis and ask for a new SIM card. But that also means that anyone, or in fact anyone internally, can actually request for a new SIM card on your behalf. You can come and claim that, hey, I'm Vitalik, I lost my SIM card. I can't prove it because obviously I don't have my phone and I need a new SIM card. And that's how you get 2FA messages. So when you sign into Twitter and you switch on 2FA, you get a 6-digit code. That's similar when you use Maybank or you use any other banks. You get a 6-digit code and it helps you sign into Twitter. And this happens when you get someone else's SIM card, you put it into your phone, and then you can receive all subsequent authentication messages. Yes. So the way to overcome this, as Tim Baker has highlighted, if you open your Twitter settings, you should actually remove your phone number so that the default 2FA goes back to Google Authenticator, which is not vulnerable to SIM swaps. So highly recommend everyone to follow through the steps and remove your phone number from Twitter to avoid tweeting unknown NFT links. Right. So Ethereum nearly welcomed the new testnet last night called Whole Sky. I'm not sure which one of you were trying to run validators on it. Maybe the Rocket Pool team was trying to test, Whole Sky. I was up at night, and we were all realizing in the middle of the night that no blocks were being created. Network was live, but no one was getting any blocks. And one of the reasons was one of the Ethereum core contributors put this message, 0x68C, and so on the execution layer, if I'm not mistaken, but they forgot to put it in the consensus layer. So this misconfiguration, essentially one person saying that, hey, this data exists. The second, the consensus layer saying that it doesn't exist. So this mistake or this discrepancy caused the whole testnet launch to fail. And this message, 0x6668 something, translates to how much is the fish. So because of this one message added, it essentially caused the Whole Sky testnet to fail launch. And they will relaunch, I think, in about a week's time. But essentially, it's a misconfiguration issue and a joke that will live for a very long time on Ethereum. Yeah, so Whole Sky is expected to launch next in about 2 weeks. It is a new testnet that helps to solve the problems with Goalie. So everyone probably knows at this point that Goalie, which is a testnet network, has there is value to Goalie Ether, which shouldn't be the case. But essentially, if any of you are new builders, any of you want to get started with Ethereum, the best way to test it is on a testnet, and I highly recommend Whole Sky because it's a new, fresh testnet, and there's lots of test Ether that you can start building apps and so on. Yes. Look out for faucets as well. Next, how many of you here in the community use Telegram bots? Telegram bots, like, do you guys use it for keeping track of assignments, keeping track of dates, keeping track of announcements? So not many of you guys use Telegram. You guys use WhatsApp people. How many of you here actually have Telegram? Yeah, about half, but mostly don't use bots. So that's just to gauge community interest. So actually, you can actually trade using Telegram bots. So you can, for example, rather than opening MetaMask, opening Uniswap that takes like 10 minutes, you can actually run a bot like /sell, and then you can immediately buy tokens. It's similar to Discord, but it's a faster way of buying tokens on Ethereum. So recently, if any of you have used this bot, it's called Banana Gun. Nice name. But essentially, they unfortunately failed their token launch with a failed sort of tax mechanism. And once this launch was completed, they had to redo the whole launch because they messed up the tax mechanism. But it's mainly just a PSA for those of you who are using Banana Gun to be careful of it. All right. So another neighboring country news, I'm not sure how many people are aware, Thailand wants to test a digital e-wallet in which every single Thai citizen aged 16 to I think somewhere around 80 years old, if you download and use their national test digital currency wallet, you'll be rewarded with 10,000 Thai bahts. Okay, that's a huge national airdrop to the whole Thailand community. So that's cool because the Thailand community is now testing the concept of CBDCs or central bank digital currency. Yeah, something around that terminology. So it's quite cool in a sense that every Thai citizen who downloads this app and tries out this app will be rewarded with 10,000 Thai baht. So yes, if you love airdrops, Thailand is the place to be. Besides so it of course asks the question of when and maybe when our countries will try and test out this kind of airdrops. Cool. National airdrop. Okay, and of course, we welcome back the kings of APU, which is the home place of APU-BCC, where they recently won a huge amount of hackathons. Huge congratulations to them, and I hope it becomes inspiration to future other hackathon members. Yes, really good. Okay, so with that, I think we wrap up EKL for September. Are there any other announcements? You have some, Srinkai? Okay, right, that's the September roundup, guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. So actually, right, if you look over there, we actually have stickers as FYI. speakers of ETHKL over there. So feel free and go and grab some. Okay. So next, I think we're gonna have Yudish, one of the hackathon winners, to maybe give a share about the experience in Singapore and what projects are you hacking on. Okay, so welcome Yudish.
Hey everyone, GM. So I'm the president of the Asia Pacific University Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Club, Yudish. So honestly, this has been like not sure the second or third time that I actually went overseas for a Ethereum hackathon. But I still vividly remember the very first time I went for a Ethereum hackathon was back in Colombia last year, Bogota. And I think I got the opportunity from the Ethereum Foundation to, as a scholar, to go and hack and also learn from DevCon. So ever since then, I really wanted to give back to the local Malaysian community and bring more hackers for hackathons like this. And I finally got a chance to. So 14 of us from the Asia Pacific University Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Club went to Singapore for the hackathon, so Ethereum Singapore. Unfortunately, we did not get a chance to attend a conference because the way it was structured is that a conference and hackathon is separate. But nonetheless, we took the opportunity to really look into the problem statements. So for Ethereum Singapore, it was somewhat open-ended. We had a couple of sponsors who were there. And it was 3 teams from the blockchain club. My team was me alongside my 4 other mates. They're all Indonesians. We for the previous hackathons that we joined was pretty much the same team. So what we hacked on was an on-chain peer-to-peer platform. Essentially, it's essentially like Binance, except we kind of replaced the process of having to do the trading with smart contracts. So it was fairly new to us and was fairly challenging. But I think the bounties that our team won was the best DeFi app on Zilliqa network because we deployed on their testnet, and also we won a bounty from Tyco. Tyco was also like deployment related. So that was my team. Then there was another team that won. I think it was Hao Xiang. I think we can have Hao Xiang here also because he's from the other team. Hao Xiang, come and give us a bit of sharing about. I don't need that. Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine. Hao Xiang's team won. I think was another bounty from Aztec because they used their APIs. So it's pretty impressive. But yeah, I think shortly after we also went for like ZK House. But that is the gist of the hackathon win. So I'm really hoping for more hackers from KL, not only BCC but KL, Malaysia, to go and represent Malaysia for hackathons like this and get more awards. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
All right. Sorry, just hijacking for one last kind of announcement or sharing. This is a personal favor to a friend who doesn't like to get public spotlight. But for those who don't know, one of the most OG team members in the community, Caleb Lau, who is a developer at Etherscan. He is also I can't get the slides to work, so Shinkai, if you can help me. But Caleb Lau is also one of the members of the Arbitrum Security Council, and the re-election is happening, I think, by next month. And so he is kind of running for re-election. So if anyone thinks it's cool that a Malaysian is one of the key members of the Arbitrum Security Council, then you can, and if you have any Arbitrum ARB tokens to be able to delegate, you can vote for him to be one of the members. He is also the guy who we all rely on for explorers such as RBScan 1 and RBScan Nova, as well as a bunch of other explorers that you use as well. So yeah, sorry for the plug, but yeah, if anyone wants to, you can vote for him. And I'll share the link later. Okay, thanks.
So thank you, Arif. So I think that ends our session. Anyone have any questions? No. Okay. So I think the food is here, right? So anyone can. Oh yeah, 1 second. Can we have one group photo? T1. So can everyone sit closely to the middle? Just take one group photo. I think I met you in